I'd like to keep everyone invested about where I am with respect to the new multimedia exhibition. I have some general ideas that I've written out. One, that we should have include a simple voice recording jukebox, and we should have a website guide. And one of the major things I think we should do is have really very, very clear signage everywhere, with large explanations in both English and German. I'll talk a little bit about that more specifically when we look at the different stations. We should include an electronic scrapbook where one can enter comments and include their email address directly, so we can communicate with them if they would like to. A visitor should have an option to use their smartphone and or their iPad, and again I'll explain how we can do that, and I'll be investigating some more possibilities for that later. A key is that we have wireless sound for the iPad and Android applications. I think the study replica is perfect. The only thing that we discussed is having either infrared or motion sensors so that the sound so people do hear Nuria talking. Right now it's off most of the time, but it would be nice to have that sound on when people are actually visiting that station. The posters, if we have posters, I think we should have something such as a kiosk where we can put some posters on that in lieu of placing them on the walls. I'd like to see some kind of a Kindle application where people can actually look at some of the books, go through and look at some of the text from some of the books, and they may then can actually download them through Kindle if they want to. And then there needs to be a guide, both electronic guide and probably a printed guide. So now let me look at a few of the things. One of the things that I'd like to have here is this. This is a model of how I think we should present most of the materials within the exhibit. And the idea here is that it has two square sections and then two trapezoidal sections. The height of it will, the size of this and the height will be determined by the height that we use, and then these things, the end sections, are actually cubes, so that those dimensions will be determined by the height that we use. And then the middle section is just the golden rectangle ratio for the middle section. The option here would be to have it go to have the two cubes and then the trapezoidal sections in the middle, so you have these, what we before called the sort of teatrini on each side, and then on the ends you would have these sort of cube sections, and you can put in either a small shelf, triangular shelf, or you could have a larger shelf, and you can use the back for writing. And for these trapezoidal sides, you could also, I would suggest also having shelves in here, in lieu of having something large in here, so people actually can walk up and see things. And for some of this, for more specifically, like for the bricolage, then they would be in here. Now, in this particular configuration, you could have it this way, but that doesn't preclude you from having it, for example, against the wall, where you'd have three sections like this. Or you could have one reversed that way, and there's all kinds of options of angles you could use with a device like this. And I expect these would be hinged and then could be fixed at different angles, so that they could be used appropriately at different parts of the exhibit. Now let's look more specifically at in the first place, the gallery. And at one time I thought, well, maybe it might be a nice idea to have a replica of the Blaue room, but that's one possibility. But then maybe it might be better just to have a modern really sort of a modern way of viewing paintings. And in that case, we might even use something like this in here, where you could actually have one of these in that room, and the people could go around and get closer to the paintings with inscriptions and things or information that we could post on the walls of this. I think that it's crucial that if we're going to write anything, that it's written in a font size such that one doesn't have to walk up and look at it. That if you think that important that they should be able to read it, then it should be large enough so that they can read it from where they're looking at any of the works of art. Below here is the classroom, and what I would introduce in the classroom would be desks. And the idea would be to have people have things on the desk just as we have now on the table, but they would actually be able to look at some of the examinations and things that we have. And then I would suggest maybe that we even incorporate an iPad on some of these, where one can actually select from the iPad let's say one of the poster-sized lessons that he had, and have that actually display on the easel. So actually they would control the ones that we could have a selection from this, where they would then control which ones they would like to look at, that would be on the easel, and they would be working from an iPad at a desk. The other over here, there's some other ones, the humor and recreation. That one would include things such as we had ready, like the tennis video, and then this would be, the goal in here would be the people would be walking out of this with a smile on their face, and it would, we would probably use something like this, and they would have a chance to actually, in here, I'd like to have both here in the humor rec and in the one adjacent to this, which we call bricolage, to have the opportunity for people to actually walk up and have things on a shelf high enough up for them, not on a table level, but on a shelf level, so that it's really easy for them to actually look at the material and use the materials. In this case, we'll just keep putting more and more things that we think would be appropriate. But I also would put maybe even a little more information about each object, so that, for example, if there were a corner place in here and we had some devices in here that we look at, we might put on the wall in here an explanation of what they are. Below this is the replay room, which is perfect now that we have the new screen in there. We'll have no trouble at all having videos to show there. And the only thing I would suggest is that we have some kind of a really clear marquee which says exactly what's being shown at each time, and how long it's going to be, and that we have really good seating. So it's sort of, in a way, sort of a little kind of a comfortable theater where they can sit down and listen and see these performances. The biography wall, I would include within the biography wall audio sections that would have to be listened to with earphones. And the audio sections would have really important examples of things at that time with respect to, for example, the first such and such work, whatever how significant it may have been, and an example of that, so people can hear it, not just see it, not just read about it, but actually they'll listen to particular examples in these little audio sections. We could also be nice to have some visual sections in there too. One of the things on the biography wall would be it would be nice to have there was recently with a boiling water speech could actually be be put on there, so we could even use some of those short YouTube videos. But again, we're going to have to use earphones because we don't want to conflict with the sounds. And last in here is the manuscript viewing room, which is a viewing area, which is something slightly new. But